You wake up one day and realize you've been living someone else's life. The job you never wanted, the beliefs you never questioned, the quiet ache of knowing deep down that you're not who you were meant to be. You scroll, you work, you sleep, and still something feels hollow, like you're drifting through a world that promised meaning and never delivered. That feeling? Nietzsche saw it coming over 100 years ago. He called it nihilism, a spiritual sickness, the slow death of meaning in a world that had outgrown its old gods but hadn't yet found anything to replace them. And he didn't just name the disease, he gave us a way out. Friedrich Nietzsche, a man who didn't just think, he felt the collapse of Western certainty in his bones. A philosopher who raged against the easy answers, who challenged us to stop surviving and start becoming. Born in 1844 in Röcken, Germany, Nietzsche was no ivory tower academic. He was a storm, a fire, a mirror held up to the soul of modern man. His ideas are not gentle. They burn, they provoke, but they also awaken. At the heart of his philosophy lies one essential force, the will to power. Not power over others, but power over yourself. The force to create, to struggle, to transform, to say, I will not be defined by this world. I will define myself. Then there's the Übermensch, the overman, not a tyrant, but a pioneer of the spirit. Someone who transcends the values of the crowd and dares to live with original purpose. Someone who creates meaning, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. And finally, the eternal recurrence, the most haunting question of all. If you had to live this life again, exactly as it is, forever, would you be proud, or would you be terrified? Nietzsche wasn't writing for comfort. He was writing to break the sleepwalkers, because he saw where we were headed. A world full of distraction, noise, conformity. A culture terrified of suffering, yet empty without it. But he didn't despair. He believed the collapse of old meaning wasn't the end. It was a beginning. A chance to rebuild from within, to live deliberately, to turn your life into something worth repeating. His message today is more urgent than ever. In a time of identity crises, mental health epidemics, and digital overload, Nietzsche dares us to ask, are you truly living, or are you just surviving? Are you a product of your environment, or the author of your own existence? This is not just philosophy. It's a wake-up call, because the will to power lives in you. And it's time to rise. When Nietzsche spoke of the will to power, he wasn't talking about brute strength or simple ambition. He wasn't reducing human nature to biology or survival instincts. No, he was pointing to something far more profound, a creative, dynamic force that pulses beneath the surface of everything we do. The will to power is the drive to become, to expand, to overcome. It's not about overpowering others. It's about overcoming ourselves. Think about it. Every time you push beyond your limits, every time you strive for growth, every time you resist the pull of mediocrity, that's the will to power at work. It's not desire. It's not need. It's the inner fire that says, I must rise, I must shape, I must create. Nietzsche believed this will wasn't a flaw or a quirk, it was the very essence of life itself. Life doesn't just want to survive, it wants to assert itself, to express its unique form, whether it's an artist painting their soul onto a canvas, or an entrepreneur building something from nothing, or a scientist reaching toward the edges of the unknown. This is the will to power in action. But it's not just about greatness in the public eye, it's about the quiet battles too. The moments when you choose integrity over ease, when you resist the temptation to conform, when you carve your path, even if it means walking alone. The will to power is the refusal to be passive. It demands self-awareness. It asks, what are your strengths, your values, your deepest instincts, and how are you using them? Not everyone's will expresses itself in the same way. Some lead, some build, some create, some question, but all are acts of becoming. Nietzsche invites us to embrace this diversity, to stop pretending we're all the same, to stop hiding behind comfort and sameness. He challenges us to own our individuality, not as rebellion, but as responsibility. Your will is yours. Your life is yours. What will you do with it? History gives us powerful examples of individuals who lived by this principle. Think of Leonardo da Vinci, whose relentless curiosity and vision defied the boundaries of art and science, or Marie Curie, whose pursuit of knowledge pushed her through unimaginable challenges, or someone like Nelson Mandela, whose strength of will reshaped an entire nation, not through domination, but through the power of conviction. These people didn't wait. They acted, not perfectly, not without struggle, but with the kind of authenticity and courage Nietzsche admired. And here's the twist. Nietzsche wasn't offering comfort. He wasn't selling success or happiness. He was offering a challenge. To live with intensity. To accept that life will be hard, and to love it anyway. To turn suffering into fuel. To make meaning where none is given. The will to power, then, is not just a theory. It's a tool, a compass, a source of inner strength in a world that often tries to make us small. You don't need to be famous. You don't need to be fearless, but you do need to decide. Will you live by habit, or will you live by will? Because every moment, every choice, every act of defiance or creation, that's your will speaking. The question is, are you listening? Nihilism. The sense that nothing matters, that life has no purpose, that all our values are built on sand. Nietzsche saw it coming. He saw that as science advanced and religion declined, the old foundations would crumble. The belief in a divine order, a moral truth handed down from above, it was fading. And with it, a terrifying question began to rise. If there is no absolute meaning, then what are we living for? He called it the death of God. But it wasn't about religion alone. It was about the collapse of certainty and the silence that followed. For Nietzsche, this wasn't just a crisis. It was the crisis. Because when meaning is lost, people don't simply become free. They become lost. They fall into apathy, conformity, distraction, or worse, they cling to new dogmas, ideologies, identities, causes, anything to escape the void. He called this the existential vacuum, a space of emptiness where values used to be. And he warned us, if we don't fill it with something real, something personal, it will fill itself, with lies, with power, with despair. So what's the answer? Nietzsche didn't offer salvation. He offered something harder and more empowering, the will to meaning. The idea that in a world without objective purpose, we become the creators of value. We choose what matters. We shape our lives as works of art. This is not easy. It's not safe. But it's real. It means looking at your life and asking, what do I believe in? What will I stand for, even when no one is watching? What truth burns in me? This is how we overcome nihilism. Not by looking outward, but inward. Not by finding meaning, but by making it. Nietzsche challenges us to take responsibility for our existence, to stop waiting for someone to hand us a map, to write our own, and to live it with courage. And this isn't just philosophy, It's survival. In the 21st century, we're surrounded by noise, social media, consumerism, algorithms telling us what to want, who to be. It's easy to get lost, to become passive, to live a life that isn't really yours. But that's not the only option. You can create. You can choose. You can say, this is who I am. This is what I value. This is the life I will build, even if the world doesn't understand. Because meaning doesn't come from outside. It comes from commitment, from effort, from sacrifice, from living in alignment with your deepest self. Nietzsche knew that the path forward wasn't about returning to old certainties. It was about evolving, becoming, rising above the ruins of the past to shape something new, something more honest, more alive. That's the real challenge of nihilism. It's not to defeat it. It's to grow through it, to stare into the abyss and find, not fear, but freedom. So ask yourself, what meaning will you create? What values will you live by? What kind of world will you build? Not someday, but now. Because in the end, overcoming nihilism isn't about finding answers. It's about living the questions, fully, boldly, and with the will to make every moment count. The will to power. We've explored it as a personal force, an inner drive to grow, to create, to transcend. But Nietzsche also saw its broader potential, because this will doesn't stop at the individual. It moves outward. It shapes cultures, drives revolutions, and transforms societies. At its core, the will to power is a force of life. And life doesn't exist in isolation. We're part of something larger: families, communities, nations, the world. So what happens when that same inner drive is expressed collectively? Nietzsche believed that just as individuals can be passive or powerful, so can societies. A society driven by the will to power is not one of domination, but of becoming. It's creative, dynamic, alive. It encourages excellence, diversity, risk-taking. It doesn't flatten people into sameness. It invites them to rise, to lead, to build. And yet, this power must be tempered, because when will becomes unmoored from ethics, it can become dangerous. That's why Nietzsche's idea often gets misunderstood. It's not a license for tyranny. It's not about crushing others. It's about channeling strength towards something meaningful, together. So what does that look like? It means using our power not just for ourselves, but for something greater, a shared vision, a just cause, a future worth fighting for. It means creating systems that encourage human flourishing, not just control. It means lifting others as we rise, because true strength doesn't fear equality. It welcomes it. The will to power, when socialized, becomes a force for progress. Look at history, the civil rights movement, the fight for democracy, the pursuit of science and art. These were not passive moments. They were expressions of will, individuals and groups refusing to accept the world as it is and daring to imagine what it could be. But with power comes responsibility. Nietzsche didn't offer a blueprint for a perfect society. He gave us a question. How do we balance freedom with responsibility? How do we honor the individual and the collective? How do we rise without stepping on others? The answer lies in a new kind of ethic, not one based on obedience, but on integrity. Not one that demands conformity, but one that honors difference. An ethic rooted in the understanding that we are all creators of meaning, and that our creations shape the world we all share. It means asking, what kind of world am I helping to build? What values am I reinforcing with my choices, my voice, my work? Because will alone is not enough. It must be guided, directed, not by fear or tradition, but by vision, by conscience, by love. Nietzsche believed in strength, but not the strength of cruelty, the strength of character, of self-mastery, of choosing the harder path because it's right, not easy. And if we apply that strength to our shared life, to our politics, our education, our communities, then the will to power becomes something extraordinary. It becomes a force not just for personal greatness, but for collective elevation. So yes, the will to power begins with you. But it doesn't end there. It radiates, it inspires, it builds. Together we can harness that will, not just to survive, but to evolve, to create a society that reflects the best in us, a world shaped not by fear or control, but by vision, courage, and the relentless will to make it better. So what does it all mean? For you? Nietzsche's philosophy isn't just theory. It's a call to action. The will to power isn't abstract. It's real. It lives in your choices, your habits, your mindset. It's there, every day, waiting to be awakened. So how do you harness it? Start with self-awareness. Look inward. Who are you? Beneath the roles, the routines, the expectations? What drives you? What are your fears, your desires, your untapped potential? Then comes vision. Set a goal, not just any goal, but one that stretches you, one that scares you a little, that excites you a lot. Nietzsche believed greatness is forged in struggle. So choose a path that demands your best, not perfection, effort. Next, discipline. The will to power isn't a feeling, it's a commitment, a choice you make again and again, when it's hard, when it's boring, when no one's watching. Power isn't loud. Sometimes it's just showing up, every day. And then, action. Take the first step, write the first page, make the call, say what needs to be said. The world doesn't change when we think about it. It changes when we act, boldly, imperfectly, consistently. But don't stop with yourself. Use your will with intention. How are you shaping the people around you? Your relationships, your community, your legacy? Are you building up or tearing down? Are you inspiring others to rise or keeping them small? Because power isn't about control. It's about creation. And what you create becomes your world. And remember, you always have a choice. Even when life feels chaotic, you choose how to respond. You choose what to focus on, what to believe, what to fight for. Your choices are the bricks of your reality. So choose wisely, choose bravely, choose to become who you were meant to be, not who the world told you to be. Nietzsche's legacy isn't in rules or systems, it's in this enduring truth. You are not a passive passenger in your own life. You are the artist, the builder, the author. You have the power to shape your existence, not because it's easy, but because it's yours. So take the risk, embrace the struggle, create meaning, live with will, and never forget, the world changes when you do. If this message spoke to you, if you felt the fire Nietzsche wanted to ignite, then subscribe for more. Because this is only the beginning. Your will is powerful. Use it well, or let the world use it for you.